camera. Yeah, and this time I've got him. See? You see? Oh, you don't see it? He moves! Right there! Wait! Right there! He's guilty! You can see it on his smug little face! Guilty! I say guilty! Guilty!
So, let's talk about SeaWorld.
You would have told me 10 years ago that SeaWorld, of all places, would be home to some of Florida's best coasters. I would have told you just go jump in the shark tank, cause that's not happening.
Over the course of the last 10 years, SeaWorld Orlando has been on a mission to become one of the top roller coaster destinations in Florida. And while yes, its competitors like Universal and Disney each have their own specialties with their highly themed rides and attractions, SeaWorld has carved out its own space in the Orlando game with high-thrill, large roller coasters.
SeaWorld is no longer a place just to go watch the dolphins, you know? From the new Icebreaker to Mako, and even some of its water rides, SeaWorld has quite the catalog of rides to enjoy.
And today we're going to use our incredibly scientific ranking system and our tier list to rank each and every one of the rides at this park. Whether the ride is good only for a walk-on or if it's a true marvel of human engineering. So without any further ado, let's get into our list.
Starting at the bottom, we have a category called Not Even for a Walk-On. These are the kind of rides that if we're walking past them, and even if it's a walk-on, I think I'll just rather go ride something else.
And because we know you're here only to listen to us talk about the best rides at the park, we're just gonna go through these very quickly.
Unless you want like a 2-hour analysis on Elmo's Choo Choo Train, but I'm guessing you don't want that. In this tier, we have Elmo's Choo Choo Train. I mean, it's just a train. It's kind of boring. We have the Sunny Day Carousel, Abby's Flower Tower, even though that's a great name, and Slimy Slider, also a great name, but the ride, it just doesn't, there's just better things to ride. I'm sorry, Ernie. I'm sorry, Bird.
And that brings us to our next tier, which is only for a walk-on. Unlike the previous list of rides, even if we're not willing to wait a very long time for many of these, if we see them and we see there's no line, sure, we'll go hop in line, we'll ride the ride. I mean, why not? It's a good time.
We have 2 more kid rides here, but they're just a step above the other ones. We got the Cookie Drop. Even though it's small, it's a little baby, but we love a good drop here, no matter what the size.
Plus, we love cookies.
And we got Super Grover's Boxcar Derby, a good old kiddie coaster that if you want to feel nostalgic.
And like maybe you're one of those people that just want to get as many credits as possible. Like if that's you,
yeah, you're one of those nerds that keeps a list on their phone. Who on earth does that?
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
And the good news is that SeaWorld doesn't have many rides that are down in these lower tiers, so we're going to get straight to the good stuff, which brings us on to our next tier, which we call a good time. These are rides that you are, of course, going to be willing to wait for. If you're passing by and you see there's a little wait, like maybe 15, 20 minutes, oh, that's definitely worth it. You're going to get in line for that.
First, we have the newest attraction at SeaWorld, Penguin Trek. It's alright. It's solid. I mean, I can't really say anything bad about it, but I can't really say anything like spectacular about it either. It's just a solid family coaster, perfect for the kids who want to step up their game so they can get to the big boys.
You go from Elmo's Choo Choo to Penguin Trek.
There's good theming. Although I was thinking, because it's themed to like the Arctic. During the queue, it's always like, yeah, we're going to the coldest place on Earth, and then you launch and you're just like blasted by the Orlando heat. You're like, oh, because you like go from air conditioning to outside. And it would have been funny if there was like a built-in air conditioner like on the ride that just blasted you while you were riding.
Anyway, we're not going to spend too much time on Penguin Trek. There are much bigger, better rides we can get to. Which brings us on to the next ride, which is Icebreaker.
This is a very divisive ride. in the parkpals community.
Yeah, it's much like my love for Adventure Express. Mia loves Icebreaker, but much like how Mia is a certified Adventure Express hater, I'm a certified Icebreaker hater. Come on, it's no good. It's no good.
I'm not like die-hard in love with it, but I think it's solid.
Here's the thing about Icebreaker, right? You go on, okay? And you have to squeeze into these tiny little seats, and then the big attraction, like the big thing that draws you to this ride, beyond 90-degree vertical drop, steepest in Orlando, right?
The steepest in Orlando. Don't forget that.
The reason people say they love this ride is because it has good airtime. And sure, when you're riding the ride, you go over some of those bumps, you are gonna get lifted out of your seat. But what is the point of airtime? I'm gonna get philosophical here. What is the point of airtime if you are strapped down to your seat? To get your shoulder blades rubbing against a restraint? You don't want that. That's no airtime.
Now that I get your gripe, I am not a fan of restraints, and I know that it doesn't help that you are like a foot taller than me. But I still think it's fun. The redeeming quality for this ride for me, especially if you're in the back, because like honestly, the front of this ride kind of sucks because you don't even get to the drop. But if you're in the back, and that third launch up into that top hat, and you just get whipped over that. And I like a good whippy coaster, and I think this has like great whippage. There's great ejector airtime. Once again, the restraints kind of suck, but you're gonna have to just swallow that pill and just enjoy the ride as it is.
And that brings us on to the next ride, which is Journey to Atlantis. And I am so glad I was able to get this janky old water ride over Icebreaker. That is my crowning achievement for this video.
Listen, I like Journey to Atlantis because Poseidon's Fury is now closed. This is like my fill of that vibe. It's not as good as Poseidon's Fury, don't get me wrong, but it still has that cheese, that Atlantean cheese to it.
There's something about it, right? An old
There's something
janky water
about
ride.
it.
They have a special charm, that indefinable quality, that je ne sais quoi, if you will.
The je ne sais quoi.
Yes. And the one thing about this ride that I love is I think, and this honestly makes me love the ride even more, I think just about everything in this ride is broken.
Yeah, I think so.
You
too.
go in, you're like, there's supposed to be an animatronic there. There's not. There's supposed to be audio there. There's not. You're just riding through these different scenes in complete silence, yet it's hilarious. I love it.
It's so funny. And I love that little like cop out with the big hill. You think the big hill is gonna get you wet, but it really doesn't. It's those sneaky little hills that just pour buckets of water on your lap.
Yeah, and that's why you're going to the ride, right? You want to
yeah.
Come on. And that takes us to where things are starting to get really good. We're getting to our next tier, which is...
I'm getting back in line. These are the rides that we would wait anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
And it just so happens these are the top 5 rides at SeaWorld.
Once again, SeaWorld has a good, deep collection of good, solid rides.
Which takes us to the first one in this section, which is the Kraken.
Kraken? It's good. What more could we say?
It's a good, fun roller coaster. You experience some great forces, it's smooth. Honestly, its biggest crime is just being surrounded by a bunch of roller coasters that just edge it out. You know, like, Kraken does everything really well, but there are some other coasters that do those things just a little bit better, and that's Kraken's biggest crime. But the one thing about Kraken that no one can top, I don't think any ride in SeaWorld has better cue music than Kraken does. It goes
cue
hard.
music goes crazy. I will say this ride does have the best. If you want to black out, go on Kraken. I just prefer other things than blacking out, personally.
Which takes us on to our next ride, which is...
Infinity Falls. It's a great ride. Honestly, I go back and forth whether I like Popeye or Infinity Falls more. Which is the best water ride in Orlando, we may never know.
Because it's definitely not Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
No.
It's your classic river rapids ride. You get wet, you spin around, you hit some...
gnarly turns, and it takes a classic and puts a spin on it where you, at the end of the ride, you take an elevator up and you go down a giant drop.
Now, the only thing we would say this ride is missing is that Compared to Popeye, you know Popeye, it's got those
We love
evil moments, right? Where it's got those sprayers, it's got the buckets that you're just sitting there, you're minding your own business, you don't even think you're gonna get wet, and all of a sudden you get this water, it just drenches down on you.
It's devious.
It's devious. It's a
To
devious
see, like,
ride.
if we're playing D&D with the attractions of Orlando, Infinity Falls is like a lawful good or like a neutral good, while Popeye is chaotic evil. I cannot explain why. That's just what it is.
Yeah, where's Dudley Do-Right?
Dudley Do-Right is probably chaotic neutral.
Yeah, and where's Tiana?
Lawful neutral. I can't explain why. It's just my gut feeling.
The gut feeling. And where's the subscribe button?
I know it's somewhere up in the good category, because if you subscribe, you're good!
Now, let's get to our top 3 rides at
The
SeaWorld.
big boys. We got, for number 3, Pipeline, the surf coaster. Now, I don't know how controversial this is.
We think it's great.
I like it. I think it's one of the most unique rides out there. And it's not even, because like, oh, the stand-up coaster, schmand-up coaster, but this one's different. The surf coaster, what makes it different is that while you're riding it, when you are going up and down the hills and going through those forces, the seat moves with you. And I was not expecting this when I first rode it. But when you get a pop of airtime, your feet leave the ground. And that has stuck with me ever since. I've never felt something like that before. And I don't care what people say about this ride. I think it's fun. I think it's unique. And it's just as we said before, a good time.
It's more than that.
You want to get back in line? Exactly.
Yeah. I would say the only crime of this ride, the only thing that I would say about it is it's just a little too short.
It's a little short.
Which, honestly, if that's your problem as a ride, that's good, because it means you're doing something really well and you want to keep riding it, right? But even beyond that, I would say I just love how innovative it is. It took standing coasters, which many people hate, and it made one that is really good and doesn't hurt you when you ride it. But, that being said, despite how much we love this ride, there are 2 more at SeaWorld that we like that much better. And I gotta say, it was really hard. We talked a little bit about this. It was a bit of a debate. We couldn't decide which of these final 2 rides we thought was the best. Because in the end we said, it's kind of whatever one you ride last is the one that you think is better.
At number 2, the runner-up, we have Manta. I love Manta. I really like it. The queue line, just the moment you walk in, that queue line, you get a beautiful aquarium. And like, I don't even mind waiting for this ride, because you just get to look at all the stingrays and the fish. And I'm a fish lover. I love fish. I don't even realize I'm waiting in line.
And then the ride itself, come on.
The coaster nerds out there, don't get mad at me if I say it's the wrong thing, but I believe it's called a pretzel loop. That pretzel loop, when you are going down that and you just feel like 2,000 pounds pressed down on your chest, it's a great feeling. It's like the feeling you get when you like crack your back. I feel like it fixes me.
And then you end with that nice glide over the water as well.
Over the water, it's beautiful. If you're in that one seat, you get to like hit the waterfall and like your feet get wet a little bit. And it's just like, oh my goodness, this is so fun.
But that brings us to the top, the best, the cream of the crop, the most sharkalicious ride at SeaWorld, which is Mako.
I mean, what can we say about a B&M Hyper? They're just so good. They're so solid.
There's something special about a B&M Hyper. It's consistent, it's smooth, it's fast, you got some nice floater airtime. And can we just say the ride, it's beautiful, it's a great color scheme with that purple and the blue.
It sounds cheesy to say, it's just a ride that makes you go wee, like, you know? I always feel happy getting off of this ride, and I want to get back in line.
Fantastic ride to round out a fantastic park. A B&M park.
Except for Icebreaker. It got kicked out of the B&M lunch table, and it's not allowed at the water ride lunch table either, so it just sits on the floor and eats its lunch.
Now, you may have noticed that we don't have any rides in the highest tier, and this is because, you know, here at Parkpals, we're very exclusive with our taste.
We reserve this tier for only the highly esteemed rides, the
kind of rides that are going to deliver experience that you can't feel anywhere else.
A masterpiece, if you will.
And yes, like we're saying, SeaWorld has so many great and fantastic rides, and they also play it safe and consistent for these good thrills that you know you're going to get. And can I just say, there's nothing wrong about that. There's nothing wrong about that. Like, right? I mean, just look at what's going on with Top Thrill 2, going for an innovative ride, something different. Oh. Look at Lightning Rod, you know, the launching wooden coaster.
Don't do this to me.
There's nothing wrong with going for those consistent, good thrills. And as you know, beyond ranking the rides, we like to rank the park based on its theming as well, and how nice the park is. You know, is it clean? Is it got good stuff? Has it got good stuff to look at? Some nice fish? And I mean, of course it's got fish. It's SeaWorld.
Of course it's got fish.
And so we put the theming in for 4 points in It's a Good Time tier.
Hey, there's seals. It has my favorite animal out there. Honestly, Joel, now that I mentioned that it has my favorite animal, maybe it is a 5.
Okay, we can put it in 5. It's got seals.
Just for the seals.
Which means if we add up the score of each of these rides, plus the theming of the park itself, we end up with a final score of 42. So anyway, what do you think about our list and how we've ranked these rides? Let us know down in the comments below.
And what are your thoughts on Icebreaker? Are you pro Icebreaker or anti Icebreaker?
Or neutral. And once again, thank you for liking this video and subscribing if you've done so. And if you haven't, I mean, come on, do it. Anyway, Mia, to end off this video, give us your best dolphin impression.
I just wanna be part of your symphony!